Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Divine for you today. Here it is. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end via the first link in the description box below. Alternatively, you can come over to my private community on the Circle platform. That's the Order of the Phoenix. Over there you get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. And if you choose to come in at the higher tier, you can come and participate in the live classes that we run every month over there. It has been 2 months, but it's actually accidentally it seems to have stepped up to 3 now. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, as well as hanging out with a lot of like-minded and cool folk, you know what to do with that link. Right, let's have a look at what's going on with you, Sag, because as some of you may know, right, before I do any kind of reading at all, I sit and I don't know, meditation, trance, whatever it is, right? I connect with the energy of the sign or the person that I'm reading for, and I swear, the second I closed my eyes with you, Sag, it was like somebody had taken a fish hook and rammed my head right up, and then it was just non-stop. And I don't know what this means, but I do think that I like to try and avoid using like digital words, but there is a massive fucking upgrade coming for you this month, and I don't know of what sort, but I do think that this is going to change a lot about the way that you think about things. Whether that shows up in increased confidence in you speaking your mind, I mean, let's face it, Sagittarius don't usually have a problem with that kind of thing, or it's a literal change in the way that you think, I'm not sure. But it's very interesting just how visceral that response was. I don't think I've had a response as strong as that in a few years, actually. So let's get some cards on the table and see what's going on with you, shall we? Right, so can I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? We have the Chariot in your recent past. What about current energy for Sagittarius, please? Wow, I'm not taking all of those. Let's take them, look at them in order. 8 of Swords, 6 of Swords, 9 of Swords, Empress. I mean, it's quite interesting that I thought it had something to do with your thinking. We've also got the 10 of Wands that's fallen out down here. I'm going to leave that there for a second. Let's try that again. Current energy for Sag, please. Wow, it's the Empress. All right then. And what's coming towards Sagittarius, please? Thank you for October. We have the King of Wands. Now, traditionally speaking, we usually associate that with Leo, but because you're a fire sign, I'm going to give it to you. It's a card of great activity. It's a card of good timing too, to be honest, Sag. It's just like doing the right thing at the right moment. And to be honest, with everything that we're seeing kind of running through here, and that 10 of Wands even showing up there, there's something about the way in which it seems to be pushing towards, I wouldn't say crisis point exactly, but definitely pushing something to its end, to its completion, where you seem to be going, that's enough now. Like, that is enough. We're done doing it this way. We're going to do it. It's got, Sagittarius, a little bit my way or the highway kind of feel about it, but in a really informed and really wise way. Now, the card that we have at the bottom of the deck here is the 9 of Wands, which is a Sagittarius card, actually, as is the 10 of Wands there. What do we have? Moon in Sagittarius, Saturn in I can't remember. I think it's Saturn in Sag, that one, right? So we've got things that have been moving in a direction, whether or not you have noticed it. And here's the thing. I was actually talking to a client who is a Sag, actually, yesterday. And I said, like, everything is important at the moment. But everything's important because it's pushing towards a bigger picture that we can't quite see yet. you know, when we talk about eclipse seasons, and you know, we have 2 of those a year, we know that that is karmic, right? And whatever's going on during that time is really, really important, right? And it's going to take a little time to play out. But honestly, I feel like it's that karmic energy has kind of ebbed and flowed all year. It hasn't just been around eclipse season, but there's something very, very strong about what's showing up here. Now you've got double major arcana, you've got a 9 and then a 10 of wands, and then we have something that feels almost I don't want to say solution oriented, because that's not really the feeling that I'm getting off it. It's definitely action oriented, and there's definitely a sense of you taking charge of something. But it's all kind of coalescing together. Now, again, I don't think necessarily that the whole big picture is something that might necessarily reveal itself to you at this time, although we're going to pull some cards out, you know, from the clarifying deck, the wild unknown, to have a look. But the sense that you've been being pushed in a direction, and maybe everything's just felt kind of challenging. Like it could be that. It's just like, I don't know, that's challenging, this challenging, that's challenging. There's something about a culmination here that you feel to me like you're like, no, that's enough now. This has gone far enough. This is enough. I'm not having this anymore. I'm taking charge. That feels incredibly fucking powerful. Such incredibly powerful. So tell me about the Chariot. Why is this here, please? For Sagittarius. Right, we've got the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Swords. Okay, what about the Empress and the 10 of Wands? We've got the Knight of Wands, there you are, and the Fool. Tell me about the King of Wands here. We've got the 3 of Wands. We've got the Tower, the 6 of Swords, and the Knight of Pentacles, with the 10 of Pentacles now at the bottom of the deck. Like, this is a really important period of time, Sagittarius. I can't even begin to tell you how important this is. And here's the thing, though. It feels divided roughly 50-50 as to whether you fall into the subset of Sagittarians who are kind of finding things a bit challenging at the moment, or whether you're kind of cruising at the moment. I can see indications for both. And I don't think it's necessarily that every Sag is having a roller coaster. It's either you're either kind of cruising or things are rough. Either way, something's completing, and it's completing by your hand, I think, because you've reached your limit. Now, this Tower here, you know, one of those cards that tends to terrify people when it shows up. It feels incredibly positive. I mean, I think it's an incredibly positive card anyway. Because it seems to be coming by your hand. There's a real stepping up here, Sag. Because, you know, whether you've been finding things hard and chopping wood, carrying water, or you've just been kind of cruising along, watching other people have a hard time, and being like, okay, and kind of logging it all. The point where you're taking charge of this, whether it affects you or not, is heralding the start of something really quite powerful. Now, you know, I don't want to fall into the tarot reader tropes of, oh, you're stepping into your power and all this kind of thing, such, right? Because I think, generally speaking, that's one of those nonsense statements that doesn't really mean anything. What does it mean to step into your power? You've got the ability to say no. Well, okay, why don't you just say that? That's often what I think about these kind of things, right? It's like, it's going to mean different things for different people. And what does it mean to be powerful? I mean, maybe you've even been thinking about that recently, right? Particularly if you happen to fall into the subset of Sagittarius who feel like things are not really under your control at the moment. You don't really have any influence on anything. It's effectively feeling a little bit powerless, right? There's so much going on in this reading, I almost don't know where to start. So, let's look at these two here, right? We'll read the Line of Wands in isolation as it is. It's a Sagittarius card, like I said, it's Moon in Sagittarius. And all the nines for me speak about how we manage whatever suit it represents, right? So in the case of the Nine of Wands, it's about what we actually do. Chop wood, carry water, do this, do that, do whatever, right? It's, are our actions aligned with a sense of purpose, good intentions, all these kind of things, right? It's got this, are you acting or are you reacting sort of feel to it. This is how I read the Nine of Wands, right? Additionally, it also has this big idea of boundaries and drawing boundaries around both yourself and those things that you care about, those people that you care about, all that sort of thing, right? So we merge these in together, and what we've got is somebody who is getting to a point where, not that they have to have the courage of their convictions, but they display the courage of their convictions, right? There is a lot of courage in this card. I see, I don't know what this woman's name is. I'm sure it's like Vesselina or something like that, right? And this is Baba Yaga in the background here. Bravery shows up really strongly here. And I don't think it's because you've just suddenly clocked an issue. I think this is something that you've seen developing for a while. But it's knowing what to do about it that has potentially eluded you. Whether you're watching other people have a hard time or whether you have been struggling yourself. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to mind my own business. I'm going to chop wood, carry water. I'm just going to see how this plays out, right? This is what the energy of the Nine of Wands is saying to me here. Remember that it's a shadow card, so it's underpinning everything that's happening in the reading. We also have the Ten of Pentacles. Now, this draws in lots of other themes. We have themes of business. We have themes of home. We have structure and stability. We have, you could be your quite literal house, right? We could be talking about family and family structures and things like that. The point is, it's something solid that has been worked for. But additionally, it is something that is coming to some sort of completion here. Now, we also talk about inheritance where this card is concerned. And that isn't necessarily just the inheritance of money, right? That can be, karmic inheritances, generational karma, stuff like that. But because there was something so visceral about the connection with your energy and the way that it jerks your head up, right? You jerked my head up, right, when I was connecting to it. Something that it feels to me that it's doing for all Sagittarians. It's like fucking eyes up something. And we have the Ten of Wands showing up too. It feels like there's resolution of something that has been problematic for quite a long time, but it's coming by way of you unexpectedly taking control of this thing, right? I think that's the way that I want to put this. So over here we've got the Chariot, and I do think that for the most part all Sages have been chopping wood and carrying water, right? The Chariot card is many things. It talks about determination, it talks about victory and success and all those kinds of themes, right? The determination to see something through to its end. And in terms of you focusing on what is yours to do and actually doing that, that's something that Sagittarius has been working with for a good 2 years now, right? For sure. But what the Chariot also talks about is self-knowledge, right? We have this theme of balance that comes through with the Chariot card that is represented by, whatever two beasts it is that is drawing the Chariot along. We've got them here, right? Now, in a standard deck, or certainly in, for example, the Waite-Smith deck, what we've got is a couple of sphinxes. One is black, one is white, right? And so we're talking about polarities. We're talking about duality. We're talking about the process of harnessing these two things, whether it's black and white, good and bad, light and shadow, night and day, these kind of things, right? Holding them in balance so that we can move forwards, essentially in a straight line. And what are these polarities? Well, they are polarities of self. And this is how this card comes to mean self-knowledge and self-awareness, right? It's taking all the bits of you and pulling them together. So for me, the Charioteer actually becomes then a representation of consciously undertaken shadow work. right? Because the charioteer is literally controlling this fucking chariot right now, and he's doing it by holding these two polarities, this duality, in balance. Now, this is very strong, because it feels to me then like Sagittarius have been, if not doing it in a sort of Taurus way, you know, of filling journals of you know, their innermost thoughts and doing shadow work that way, that there's something that's been going on with you where you are paying attention, deep attention to what is going on inside of you and trying to find that balance betwixt inside and out. I think a lot of the outside stuff has been quite exacerbating to you, but because you're naturally quite a wise sign, I know not a lot of other, you know, tarot readers or astrologers might necessarily agree with that, right? But a lot of those are working on you know, kind of lazy stereotypes of the signs, right? For me, Sagittarius is a wise sign, and it's because they've been there and they've done that 50 times, and they've got the t-shirt and all that sort of stuff, right? This tension of opposites, this tension around what has been exacerbating you, is something that you've been dealing with very quietly, I think, in the background. And it's not stopped you moving forwards. In fact, the process of doing that seems to be the thing that's got you moving forwards. But like I was saying right at the beginning, I feel like everything that is happening at the moment is important. And it's just that we're not quite at a point where we can see the big picture yet. Now, of all of the signs in the zodiac, the one most likely, I think, to be able to perceive the big picture is you, Sagittarius. And I wonder if, certainly as we're looking to the rest of the cards here, what we're starting to see bleed through from your, you know, recent past energy, which could be this morning, but it could have been 6 weeks back from this point right now as you're watching this video. What we've got bleeding through here is a beginning of an understanding of the bigger picture, where everything that you've been experiencing this year, and most particularly in this last couple of months, is now starting to make a kind of sense to you, even if you can't quite explain it. And why do I say that? Well, we've got the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Cups showing up here. Both of these are incredibly potent symbols of potentiality, right? But absolutely of new stuff too, right? So with the Ace of Swords, we have new ideas, new mental creativity, new ways of putting things together, which is how I see the Ace of Swords quite often, right? That lead to often paradigm shifting changes in the way that you think about the world and whatnot. And it's accompanied with the Ace of Cups. Now, you could say that this is actually about heart and mind coherence, that there is a kind of heart and mind coherence that is starting to happen here, and that would be a totally legitimate way of interpreting it, particularly with the Chariot card showing up there, right? Because the Ace of Cups for me is about the relationship that you have with yourself, which is sacred, and it is the means by which you communicate with the universe. I really truly believe that. So if you've got this heart-mind coherence going on, if you're starting to see things that you couldn't see before, if your relationship with yourself is improving, and the way that you are thinking is starting to change, I don't think potential turns on and off. I just want to say this, right? It's not like it's just like, wow, it's Ace of Cups time, now you can do it. No, it's always there. But there are times where we are more able to see it than not, and times when we're not able to see it when it's there anyway, right? It's all about levels of awareness, because your levels of awareness seem to have been snaking upwards, even though you haven't really been able to see what that means or give any kind of explanation for it in a way that other people would understand. It feels like it's something that you've been doing really quietly to yourself, Sagittarius, right? But we've got now the beginnings of a staging that's been happening here. And moving into your current energy, and certainly in terms of what's coming for the rest of October, we see the process of that beginning to emerge from you. No longer being an internal proposition, but now being an external expression of what has changed for you. And I don't know what it is, but I know that a lot of things have balanced here in a way that likely have been quite imbalanced. Whether you've been having a hard time or not having a hard time, there's been a bit of friction somewhere, right? So then we move into your current energy and we have the Empress. Taurian energy for sure, but a lot less rigid and dogmatic than sometimes we can see the Hierophant showing up as, right? And the Empress is she's the Queen of Queens, so she is the, you know, the archetypal mother effectively. And when the Empress shows up, what we've got often is the idea of something that is beginning to gestate, something that is beginning to percolate, because the Empress is quite often depicted as pregnant, right, as a nod to her, you know, fertility, abundance, mother position. We've got the idea of something being nurtured that is getting ready to come out into the world. It's not quite there yet, but it's getting ready. Now, you have 2 tens, you have 2 aces, albeit they are, you know, from different suits. I don't think that that really matters, because I think it speaks to, across the board, this slightly out of order, which is to say, you know, out of a normal order that we would expect to see these things show up. But nevertheless, creating this odd, chaotic kind of synthesis inside of your head, Sagittarius, right? So 10 of Wands, 10 of Pentacles. We talked about 10 of Pentacles already, but the 10 of Wands is about burden. It's about feeling like you are burdened, right? That you are doing too much, that you are stretched too thin, perhaps that you're overworking, you've been overdoing it, maybe you've been picking up some like silly injuries or something recently, right? And maybe that's bothered you, right? Because most Sagittarians I know would be bothered by that. But it's more important, I think, that it seems to be a continuation from what's going on over here. And so rather than it being Sagittarius, you're stressed out to fuck, you know, you go take a holiday or take a break or something like that, it's like something about the way that you're thinking and feeling is shifting to the extent that you can see what needs to be completed, what needs to come to an end, what needs to be taken in hand, more importantly. Because here you are as the Knight of Wands right there, and that is situating whatever's going on in the present moment right now, right? Because that's what Sag does better than any other sign, is be here right now, focused on what is happening here. But what is the Knight of Wands looking at? He's looking at the new start. He's looking at this new lighter way of being. Now, if this card means burden, and this card is about liberation, as indeed the Knight of Wands is itself, then what we've got is some sort of shift that is difficult to articulate, particularly from my position, but I don't know, maybe you have better words for it than I do. This shift that's come from, by way of, let's go with heart-mind coherence, right? Because that's a good one, right? But this sense of an internal balance that is starting to be achieved by you, which is changing totally the way that you think and totally the way that you feel, where you seem to be orienting yourself towards specifically what is most important for you, and it is that sense of freedom. It is that ability to be able to travel light. Now, in the interim, you know, between what's going on all of here, what the Ten of Wands may well represent to you is the recognition of what it is that has been burdensome. And that doesn't necessarily mean you working too hard or you doing this or you doing that or whatever. You know, it can be like a physical weight that you have been carrying, but up here. So I think all fire signs, that they really do hold things in their body, and you know, regardless of whether they've whether they're working really hard and lifting heavy things all day, for example, you know, or whatever's going on in the head and the heart of a fire sign is going to express itself in the body somewhere. So it could be that you've been feeling really fucking tired. I mean, feeling like you don't really have the energy for things. Like, this has the feel to me of someone spotting where the energy leak is. And what's really interesting about it is that the energy leak is coming by way of something that actually has been yours to control, and for some reason, whatever reason that is, you haven't yet got to the point where you can put your hand on that and go, do you know what, this is mine to control. Because to some extent, the energy of the Son of Wands, this Knight of Wands here, the energy of the Fool, the energy of the King of Wands, they're all they're all fire, essentially. All right, some people say the Fool is air. All right, yeah, whatever. I think initiation is fire. I think creation is fire, and so it stands to reason to me that the Fool would be fire. But that's a personal preference on my part. The King of Wands has a lot of duty and responsibility, and we might say that this Ten of Wands here indicates that you've had too much of that. But there's a change in the way that you feel, there's a change in the way that you think, and I feel like all of this is leading to a change in the way that you act that's been coming for a while. Because in order to be truly free and liberated in the way that these two cards desire, it's like we have to step up and take charge of this other thing over here, because the extra little bit of work that involves actually frees up a lot of space over here. It doesn't feel like it's the burden that it currently feels like. It's turning into something else entirely. Because with the Ten of Wands, the burden is lifting, right? It is coming to completion. It is ending, and that came out in your present moment. And when we've got all of these cards of freedom and liberation, and the desire to be able to move and explore and just travel around unencumbered, these two cards absolutely articulate that. Now, if this represents the restriction, whether that restriction is a lack of energy or whatever it is, the energy of the Empress seems to be you dedicating yourself to a mature expression of both your freedom but also your control in terms of what is yours to control. Because when we come into October here, and we've got this King of Wands, like I said, timing is a big thing with the King of Wands. He can be incredibly patient, and that's actually what, it's one of the ways in which the King and the Knight of Wands differ from each other. And the Knight of Wands is a bit of a chaotic force, really, and hedonistic and all of those things that we associate with the Knight of Wands, right? But it's always about now. The sense of consequences and things like that don't really show up in the Knight of Wands' brain. So the maturation of that energy becomes awareness of consequences, awareness of when to take charge of something, the patience to see things through, and endurance to see things through. Because to be fair, as soon as things stop being fun or adventurous or whatever, the Knight of Wands is out of there. The King of Wands, however, will stay put. So we've got this maturation of this energy here, but we've got Three of Wands, Tower, Six of Swords, and the Knight of Pentacles. Now, we've had a Virgo solar eclipse happen, what was 21st of September or something like that, right? So we've got that eclipse energy, which is winding down now as at the point that I'm recording this, but, will be, it could take 6 months to a year for whatever was initiated there to play its way out properly. But the Three of Wands, for me, it talks about changed behaviour, right? Now, sometimes we can look at the dynamic between the Two of Wands and the Three of Wands, and we can go, right, well, the internalised state of whatever is two. So the crossroads, what am I going to do? Thinking it through, thinking about consequences and all that sort of stuff. And then in the act of picking what we're going to do and taking that first step, then we're into Three of Wands territory. But sometimes we've been moving forwards for a while, and it's not that we've hit a crossroads. It's that suddenly it's occurred to us that there may be routes off the main path that we've been travelling on that are simply just overgrown, or were obscured by nighttime or something like that, right? The Three of Wands can represent for me a change in the way that we do things. Now, if you look at the Son of Wands, this Knight of Wands here, moving up to a King of Wands, then we have this Three of Wands saying, maybe there's a different way to do this. Maybe I'm going to do these things differently, right? And taking control of that. With the Tower, this is a big change in direction for you, Sagittarius. We also have the Six of Swords, which is leaving behind something that has been problematic for you, right? When we talk about the Six of Swords, we're talking about, moving. We often say we're moving from chaotic waters into calmer waters because we are quite literally leaving something behind. And with the rainbow at the top, it's possible that there's some sort of burgeoning new faith that is emerging from you, right? And this might well be faith in yourself rather than faith in the universe and whatever. Now, I've got this, I can do this, I will take charge of this, and I will direct it differently than the way it has gone before, for example, is one of the ways in which this could play out. Well, what we've got is what is almost like being created in the middle of this Three of Wands, having this huge injection of tower energy to it, which is then kind of blowing it up and out so everybody can see, and you moving away from what has been problematic, what has been draining, what has been tiring, whatever it is that needs to end that has been relatively burdensome for you, as represented by the Ten of Wands, and I think to some extent the Ten of Pentacles. And moving forwards to some sort of plan, because that's one of the ways in which the Knight of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands would differ, right? The Knight of Wands doesn't really have a plan. Just charging about. Yeah. Doing it very impressively and looking very dramatic and having lots of adventures. The Son of Pentacles, the Knight of Pentacles, is Virgo energy. It's much slower, it's much more deliberate. I think a bird just flew into my window. That's interesting. Well, we're talking about, chaotic energy and whatnot. But I think it's got more to do with the fact that whatever the Virgo solar eclipse started in motion, this is the first expression of that energy. Now, this is something that is going to take a while to play out. We see that, I can almost see that in the way that this deer's got its head down. It's kind of like locking in on a destination. It's like, right, I'm going this way. Whatever this is, it's going to be slow to play out. But it starts here for some reason. And I don't know what this is, but I do know that it involves you taking charge of something. And I do know that once you see it, you can't unsee it, which is another interesting thing too. Like, this is really interesting, Sag, but I feel like your access to your freedom, the access that you have to your sense of unrestrainedness, and that's really important for Sagittarius, right? To not feel like they are contained. And I feel like the Ten of Wands is that sense of being contained. It's coming out differently. It's being expressed differently in you. And it starts this month. It's not chaotic. It's not, reckless or thoughtless or any of the other ways that sometimes the Knight of Wands can show up. It's moving up to King of Wands level. And it's like, if I want to be more free, I need to take more responsibility over here. Right? And in taking more responsibility over here, this is actually unlocking all of the ways in which I have felt burdened over there. It's a really strange message, I understand, but it's very, very strong, which is very interesting indeed. So I'm going to go to the extended now. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, first link in the description box. You can do that on Circle, second link in the description box. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your bag, that's absolutely fine. But, whatever the metaphorical fish hook in the third eye dragging up is that's happening for you this month, you'll fucking know it when it happens. This is not some gentle kind of navel gazing that is bringing you to a point where you're like, oh, maybe I'll try doing things different. Like, it is, this is what I'm going to do. There's something very interesting. Like, what I can't... do you know what? Maybe I'll talk about that in the extended. I think I will do that. So, rather than sitting here and chattering on for another 15 minutes. Anyway, it's a big month. Sagittarius is a really big month. So, know that I love you all very, very much. I'll see you soon.